Love isn't always simple, and passion often comes at a price. Welcome to Intrigue Romance, where secrets, betrayal, and forbidden desires collide. Tonight, we take you into a story you won't forget, where love is never what it seems. The moment I married Daniel, I knew my life was going to change. I wasn't just becoming a wife. I was stepping into the role of a stepmother to his 22-year-old son, Ryan. Though he was an adult, our relationship had always been a little distant. He was polite, but there was an unspoken barrier between us. I wanted to bond with him, to make him feel comfortable with me, but I wasn't sure how. One evening, after dinner, Ryan leaned back in his chair, swirling the ice in his glass. "Lisa, can I ask you something?" His voice had a hint of curiosity, something I hadn't heard from him before. I set my glass of water down and nodded. "Of course. What's on your mind?" He smirked, a playful glint in his eye. "I want to see something big." I raised an eyebrow. "Big? Like a skyscraper?" He shook his head. "No, something really big. Something amazing. Something I'll never forget." His request was odd, but I could tell he was serious. Maybe this was his way of breaking the ice between us. I decided to take it seriously. I smiled. "All right, let me think about it." That night, as I lay in bed next to Daniel, I kept replaying Ryan's words in my mind. He wanted to see something big. But what did that mean? He was 22, he had traveled, gone to college, seen the world. What could possibly impress him? I closed my eyes, letting memories drift through my mind. And then it hit me. The next morning, I casually slid my phone across the table to Ryan. On the screen was a satellite image of a remote canyon, untouched by the usual tourist crowds. "How about this?" His eyes widened as he studied the image. "Where is this?" "It's about an hour from here. Not many people know about it." "You up for an adventure?" His lips curled into a grin. "Hell yeah." As we drove out of town, the anticipation in the car was thick. Ryan kept glancing at me, trying to guess where we were going. "Is it a mountain?" he asked at one point. I shook my head. "A waterfall?" "Nope." He chuckled. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" I laughed. "Maybe a little." The road stretched before us, turning from paved highways to rugged dirt paths. Civilization slowly disappeared, replaced by towering rock formations and endless stretches of desert. The deeper we went, the quieter Ryan became. He was absorbing the experience, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing in around him. Finally, we arrived. I pulled the car to a stop near the edge of a massive canyon. The wind howled through the rocks, and the sun cast golden light over the landscape. It was breathtaking. Ryan stepped out of the car and froze. His mouth dropped open. "Whoa." I watched as he took a slow step forward, his eyes scanning the vastness before him. He looked so small compared to the towering cliffs, the endless drop below, the sheer magnitude of nature's power. He trailed off, struggling to find the right word. "Huge." I nodded, stepping beside him. "Makes you feel tiny, doesn't it?" He turned to me, his expression a mix of awe and disbelief. "I've never seen anything like this before." We stood there in silence for a while, just taking it in. Then I noticed something. Ryan's gaze had shifted, his expression changing from awe to something else, something more intense. "What is it?" I asked. His voice was barely a whisper. "I think I saw something move down there." I followed his line of sight, scanning the rocky terrain below. Nothing seemed out of place, but his eyes remained locked on a specific spot. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "Yeah." It was like a shadow. But it moved. A shiver ran down my spine. The canyon was supposed to be deserted. No animals big enough to cast a visible shadow lived out here. "Maybe it was just the wind," I suggested, though my voice lacked confidence. Ryan shook his head. "No." It was something. A part of me wanted to brush it off, to tell him it was just his imagination. But another part of me, the part that had learned to trust instincts, told me not to ignore it. "Stay here," I said, taking a few steps closer to the edge. Ryan grabbed my arm. "Lisa, wait. What if?" I smiled, trying to reassure him. "I just want to see." The wind howled louder as I peered over the ledge. At first, all I saw were the jagged rocks, the vast emptiness stretching out below. But then, something moved. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A flicker of motion deep in the shadows of the canyon walls. My heart began to race. "Ryan," I said slowly, "get back in the car." He stiffened.
What?
"Why?" "Just do it."
Now?
Panic flashed in his eyes, but he obeyed. I followed, keeping my gaze locked on the canyon as we slid into the car and locked the doors. Ryan's breathing was heavy. "Lisa, what was that?" I gripped the steering wheel, trying to steady myself. "I don't know." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then, Ryan whispered, "We're not alone out here, are we?" I exhaled, forcing a smile. "Let's just say, this place is even bigger than I thought." As I started the car and turned back towards civilization, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had seen something we weren't supposed to see. And from the look on Ryan's face, I knew he felt it too.
He had wanted to see something big.
I just hadn't expected it to look back.